I arrived at my parents' house for Christmas, with my 7-year-old daughter Emma, carrying carefully chosen presents I saved months to afford. The moment we walked in, my nephew Tyler, my sister Lauren's spoiled 10-year-old son, raced toward the Christmas tree and started tearing open presents labeled to Emma. I watched in disbelief as my parents laughed, calling it adorable while Emma's eyes filled with tears. My mother said boys will be boys. I realized this wasn't the first time my family had dismissed my daughter for my nephew. Standing there in my parents' living room, watching Tyler destroy the wrapping paper on Emma's carefully chosen gifts, something inside me finally clicked into place. It was like putting on glasses after years of blurry vision. The pattern I'd been too blind, or maybe too hopeful to see, suddenly became crystal clear. This wasn't new. This had been happening for years, and I'd been making excuses for it every single time. My mind raced back through every family gathering, every holiday, every birthday party, and the evidence had been there all along. I just hadn't wanted to see it. Last Thanksgiving flooded back to me with painful clarity. Emma had spent 3 weeks working on an art project for school that she was so proud of. It was a turkey made from her handprint, decorated with sequins and feathers, with a poem she'd written herself about being thankful for her family. She'd brought it specifically to show Grandma, because Patricia, my mother, always claimed to love children's artwork. But when we arrived, Tyler had grabbed it from Emma's hands, claiming he wanted to see it. Within minutes, he'd accidentally torn it in half, while playing too rough. What did my parents do? They laughed. My father Bob actually chuckled, and said Tyler was just curious about how things were made. My mother comforted Tyler when he started fake crying about breaking it, while Emma stood there holding the 2 pieces of her destroyed project, real tears streaming down her face. Lauren had even said Emma shouldn't have brought something so fragile if she didn't want it touched. Then there was Emma's birthday party 3 months ago. Sarah, my wife, had to work a 12-hour shift at the hospital, and I'd managed to pull together a small family party for Emma's 7th birthday. Nothing fancy, just family at my parents' house with a homemade cake and some presents. Emma had been so excited, talking about it for weeks, but when it came time to blow out the candles, Tyler had rushed forward and blown them out himself, claiming he was helping. When Emma started crying, Patricia had relit the candles but made it seem like Emma was being difficult about sharing her special moment. The presents were even worse. Tyler had literally pushed Emma aside to open her gifts first. Not help her open them, but actually open them himself, tearing through the paper and examining each toy before tossing it aside when something else caught his eye. Lauren had filmed the whole thing on her phone, cooing about how excited Tyler was, and how sweet it was that he wanted to help his cousin. Meanwhile, Emma sat on the floor, trying to collect her open presents while everyone focused on Tyler's antics. Sarah had tried to warn me about this pattern for 2 years now. After every family gathering, she'd point out how differently our daughter was treated compared to Tyler. She'd noticed how my parents would light up when Tyler walked into a room, but barely acknowledge Emma's arrival. She'd documented how they'd cancel plans with us if Lauren needed babysitting, but never offered to watch Emma when we needed help. The financial favoritism was perhaps the most blatant. My parents had funded Tyler's hockey league fees, which ran about $3,000 per season. They'd bought him a new gaming system for his birthday, complete with 5 games and extra controllers, easily another $800. They'd paid for his private tutoring when he struggled in math, at $60 per hour twice a week. But when Emma had expressed interest in dance classes at the local community center, just $200 for a 10-week session, they'd suggested we wait until she was older to see if she was really interested. When her pediatric dentist recommended early orthodontic intervention that would save thousands down the road, and we'd asked for help with the $500 copay, they'd claimed money was tight with the economy, and all. Standing there watching Tyler rip through another of Emma's presents, this one containing the art supplies I'd carefully selected because Emma loved to draw, I felt my hands clench into fists. The set had cost me $40, money I'd saved by skipping lunches at work for 2 weeks. I'd chosen each item specifically. The colored pencils Emma had been admiring at the craft store, The sketch pad with the unicorn cover she'd pointed out, the special erasers shaped like butterflies. Tyler held up the pencils with disinterest, then tossed them aside, moving on to the next gift. My mother was actually encouraging him, saying things like, "Oh look, another one, and I wonder what this could be." My father sat in his recliner, chuckling at Tyler's enthusiasm. Lauren knelt beside her son with her phone out. Taking photos and videos like this was some kind of performance. She kept saying things like, "Show Grandma what you found, and hold it up so I can see." Not once did she tell him these weren't his presents. Not once did she suggest he should wait or ask permission. I looked down at Emma, who stood beside me, her small hand gripping mine tightly. She wasn't crying anymore. She was just watching with this resigned expression that broke my heart more than tears ever could. This was a 7-year-old who had already learned not to expect fairness from people who were supposed to love her equally. The science kit I'd bought came next. It was designed for Emma's age group, with safe experiments she could do at home. She'd been fascinated by her school's science fair, and I wanted to encourage that curiosity. Tyler ripped it open, glanced at the contents, then announced loudly that it looked boring and babyish. My mother immediately agreed, saying it probably wasn't age-appropriate anyway. When I finally found my voice and suggested gently that maybe we should save some presents for Emma to open herself, the room went silent. My mother turned to look at me with this expression of disbelief, as if I'd just said something incomprehensibly rude. That's when she snapped at me, her voice sharp and cutting in the way I remembered from my childhood when I'd disappointed her. "Stuart," she said, using my full name like a weapon, "you're being petty and you're ruining Christmas. He's a child enjoying the holiday. Why do you have to make everything so difficult?" The entire room turned to stare at me. Lauren shook her head with this pitying expression. My father sighed heavily, as if I was causing some great inconvenience. Even my elderly Aunt Martha, who'd arrived early, looked at me with disapproval. "And Tyler?" Tyler smirked. A 10-year-old child looked me dead in the eye and smirked, knowing he'd won again, knowing the adults would take his side, knowing Emma would lose out once more. That smirk told me everything. This wasn't innocent childhood excitement. This was a child who'd learned he could take whatever he wanted without consequences. I took a deep breath and made a decision. Maybe if I could talk to my parents privately, away from the audience of relatives, I could make them understand. I squeezed Emma's hand gently and asked her to go sit with Aunt Martha for a few minutes. Then I headed to the kitchen, asking my parents to follow me for a quick word. They came reluctantly, my mother's lips already pursed in that thin line that meant she was prepared for battle. My father looked irritated at being pulled away from his comfortable chair. But I had to try. These were my parents. Surely, they'd understand if I explained it calmly and rationally. "Mom, Dad," I started, keeping my voice steady and reasonable. "I need you to understand something. This isn't just about the presents. It's about a pattern of behavior that's hurting Emma. She's 7 years old, and she's learning that her feelings don't matter, that her cousin can take whatever he wants from her, and that the adults who are supposed to protect her will just laugh it off." My mother's face flushed red immediately. "Oh, here we go," she said, throwing her hands up dramatically. "Stuart's playing the victim again. Your daughter is too sensitive, Stuart. She needs to learn to share. The world isn't going to coddle her forever." I tried to stay calm, but I could feel my frustration building. "This isn't about sharing, Mom. This is about Tyler literally taking presents that have Emma's name on them. This is about him destroying her belongings while you all laugh and call it cute. This is about you and Dad showing blatant favoritism." My father stepped forward then, his voice taking on that authoritative tone he'd used when I was young. "Now, you listen here, Stuart. Don't come into our house and start making accusations. Tyler is a normal, energetic boy. If Emma can't handle a little rough play, maybe that's a parenting issue you and Sarah need to address. Maybe if you raised her to be more assertive, instead of such a pushover, she wouldn't have these problems." The injustice of it burned in my chest. "Dad," Tyler pushed her down at her own birthday party. He blew out her candles. He opened her presents. How is that teaching either of them good values? Before my father could respond, Lauren appeared in the doorway, her face twisted with anger. She'd obviously been listening, and now she stormed into the kitchen like an avenging angel protecting her young. "I cannot believe you," she spat at me. "I cannot believe you're standing here attacking my son and my parenting. You've always been like this, Stuart. Always had to be the golden child. Always had to be perfect. Always had to make everyone else look bad." I almost laughed at the absurdity of it. Lauren had been the favored one our entire childhood. She'd gotten the new car at 16 while I'd had to buy my own. She'd had her college fully paid for while I'd worked 2 jobs to afford community college. She'd had her wedding paid for by our parents, while Sarah and I had gone to the courthouse because we couldn't afford anything else. "Lauren," I said, trying to keep my voice level, "this isn't about our childhood. This is about what's happening right now, today, to our children." She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a hiss. "You want to know what this is really about? You're jealous. You're jealous that Tyler is confident and outgoing, while Emma is timid and weak. You're jealous that my son knows what he wants, and goes after it. And you know what? Maybe if you were a better father, if you were home more instead of always working, Emma would have more confidence." The hypocrisy was staggering. Lauren worked part-time at a boutique for spending money, while her ex-husband paid generous child support and alimony. Meanwhile, I worked 50 hours a week to support my family, while Sarah worked 12-hour nursing shifts to ensure we could give Emma everything she needed. Lauren continued, her voice getting louder and more theatrical. "Poor Tyler doesn't even have a father figure since the divorce. Do you know how hard it's been for him? Do you know what he's been through? And here you are, attacking a child who's already suffering." I couldn't help myself. "I'm a single parent half the time too, Lauren. Sarah works long shifts at the hospital saving lives. But nobody ever cuts Emma any slack for that. Nobody ever excuses her behavior or gives her special treatment." Lauren's face contorted with rage. "Oh, there it is. There's the real Stuart, attacking my parenting, and now attacking Sarah's choices too. Maybe if your wife prioritized her family over her career, Emma wouldn't be such an emotional mess." The sound of footsteps made us all turn. Uncle Gerald and Aunt Margaret had arrived with their families, coming into the kitchen to greet everyone. Lauren immediately shifted into victim mode, her eyes welling with convenient tears. "Gerald, Margaret, thank God you're here," she said, her voice trembling. "Stuart's been yelling at Tyler, calling him names, saying horrible things about a 10-year-old child. He made Tyler cry on Christmas." I watched in disbelief as she painted me as some kind of monster attacking an innocent child. Gerald, my father's brother, immediately put his arm around Lauren protectively. Margaret looked at me with such disappointment, shaking her head slowly. "Stuart," Gerald said sternly, "I don't know what's going on here, but there's no excuse for taking your problems out on a child. Tyler's been through enough with the divorce." I tried to explain, but Lauren talked over me, adding more lies to her story. She claimed I'd called Tyler a brat, that I'd threatened to take his Christmas presents away, that I'd made him feel unwelcome in his grandparents' house. None of it was true, but the damage was done. The family narrative was being written in real time, and I was the villain. More relatives filed into the kitchen, drawn by the commotion. Each one got Lauren's version of events first, how her poor son was being bullied by his 35-year-old uncle. Tyler appeared at the perfect moment, fake tears streaming down his face, running to his mother and burying his face in her shoulder. My mother chose that moment to deliver what she clearly thought was the killing blow. "You want to talk about fairness, Stuart? Fine. Let's talk about fairness. Your father and I have already committed to paying for Tyler's elite hockey camp this summer. It's $5,000, and yes, that's a lot of money. But Tyler has real talent. He has potential. He's going places." She paused, looking directly at me with something almost like triumph in her eyes. "When you asked us for help with Emma's dental bill last month, we had to think about our priorities. $500 might not seem like much to you, but we can't just throw money at every little thing. We have to invest where it will make a real difference. Tyler deserves opportunities because he's special. He's a leader. He's going to make something of himself." The words hung in the air like poison. She'd actually said it out loud, in front of everyone. Tyler was special. Tyler was going places. The implication about Emma was clear. She wasn't special. She wasn't going anywhere worth investing in. I looked around the kitchen at my extended family, all of them staring at me with varying degrees of disapproval and pity. Not one of them seemed to think there was anything wrong with what my mother had just said. Not one of them spoke up for Emma, or even suggested that maybe, just maybe, both grandchildren deserved equal treatment. From the living room, I could hear Emma's small voice, asking if she could open just one present, please, just one with her name on it. I heard Tyler's loud response that he wasn't done yet, followed by my relative's laughter. That's when I knew. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't something that could be fixed with a conversation. This was deliberate, systematic favoritism, and everyone in this room was complicit in it. I walked back into the living room feeling like I was in some kind of nightmare. Emma was sitting on the floor near the Christmas tree, trying to carefully refold the wrapping paper Tyler had torn off her presents. Such a small gesture, but it broke my heart. She was trying to salvage something, anything, from this disaster of a Christmas. I sat down beside her and pulled her into my lap, wrapping my arms around her small frame. She leaned into me, and I could feel her trembling slightly. Not crying, just trembling with the effort of holding it all in. 7 years old and already learning to suppress her feelings to avoid making scenes. That's when my cousin Daniel approached us. Daniel was Lauren's age, a quiet guy who worked as a photographer and generally stayed out of family drama. He crouched down beside us, speaking quietly enough that only I could hear. "Stuart, can I talk to you for a minute? There's something you need to know." I looked at him, seeing genuine concern in his eyes. This was unusual for Daniel, who typically avoided confrontation like the plague. I asked Emma to go get herself some juice from the kitchen, watching her walk away before turning back to Daniel. He pulled out his phone, glancing around to make sure no one else was watching. "Stuart, this isn't new. This happens at every single family gathering you don't attend. When your family visits without you, when you have to work, when Sarah can't make it, it's actually worse." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean, worse?" Daniel started scrolling through his phone, pulling up videos. "I've been documenting this for a while, trying to figure out if I should say something. Look, this is from Emma's birthday party, the part you missed when you had to go back to work for that emergency." He pressed play on a video, and what I saw made my blood run cold. In the footage, Tyler wasn't just opening Emma's presents, he was deliberately destroying them. He had Emma's new dollhouse, a gift from Sarah's parents that I knew cost over $100, and he was systematically breaking it apart, claiming he wanted to see how it was made. My parents stood right there, watching, and my mother actually said, "Isn't he clever? Always wanting to understand how things work?" In the background of the video, I could see Emma crying. Really crying. Not the silent tears from today, but full sobbing. Sarah's sister Rachel was trying to comfort her, but my parents? They were focused entirely on Tyler, with my father actually going to get him tools to help take the dollhouse apart more efficiently. And then, when Tyler got frustrated because a piece wouldn't come apart easily and started having a tantrum, my mother took him for ice cream to calm down, leaving Emma there with her destroyed birthday present. Daniel swiped to another video. This one was from last Easter. The family had organized an egg hunt for the younger kids, with special golden eggs that contained $5 bills. There were 6 golden eggs hidden, one for each child under 12. In the video, I watched my father actually walking with Tyler, pointing out where the golden eggs were hidden, helping him collect not just one but all 6. The other children, including Emma, ended up with only the regular eggs with candy. When one of the younger cousins complained, Patricia said Tyler was just faster, and the other kids needed to try harder next year. "There's more," Daniel said quietly, swiping through file after file. Thanksgiving, when Tyler took Emma's seat at the kids' table, and they made her sit with the adults, even though she wanted to be with her cousins. 4th of July, when Tyler pushed Emma into the pool fully clothed, and they laughed about boys being boys while Emma had to spend the rest of the party in wet clothes because nobody thought to bring her a change. Your mom's birthday dinner, when Tyler ate Emma's special dessert that Sarah had made specifically for her because Emma's allergic to the regular cake, and Patricia said Emma was being selfish not to share. Each video, each photo, each piece of evidence felt like another knife in my gut. But Daniel wasn't done. He pulled up Facebook on his phone, navigating to my mother's profile. Look at this, Stuart. Really look at it. I scrolled through my mother's Facebook page, something I rarely did because social media exhausted me. Her profile was full of photos of Tyler at hockey practice, Tyler's school photos, Tyler's artwork on her refrigerator. Tyler. I had to scroll through dozens of posts before I found a single mention of Emma, and it was a group family photo where Emma was barely visible in the background. Then Daniel showed me something else. A private Facebook group my mother ran for her church friends. Daniel's wife was in it and had shown him screenshots. In that group, my mother regularly posted about her amazing grandson Tyler, his accomplishments, his potential. The few times Emma was mentioned, it was in the context of prayer requests for her to overcome her shyness or for wisdom for her parents in dealing with her sensitivity. My phone buzzed with texts from Sarah. She was asking how things were going, if Emma was having fun. I couldn't bring myself to respond yet. What would I even say? Aunt Margaret approached us then, having apparently overheard some of our quiet conversation. She sat down heavily in a nearby chair, looking troubled. "Stuart, I've wanted to say something for a long time," she said quietly. "At last year's Easter egg hunt, when Bob helped Tyler find all those golden eggs, I told Patricia it wasn't fair to the other children. Do you know what she said to me? She said Tyler deserved extra because he didn't have a father at home, and that Emma had 2 parents, so she already had more than her share of advantages. My cousin Jennifer, Margaret's daughter, had joined us by then." She nodded, adding her own story. "Remember the family reunion last summer? Grandma Patricia gave Tyler a special gift, that expensive remote control car, in front of everyone. When Emma asked if she had a special gift too, Grandma said her gift was having parents who could buy her things. I'll never forget the look on Emma's face. The more they talked, the more stories came out. It was like a dam had broken. Years of witnessed slights and favoritism poured out from family members who'd been too polite or too conflict avoidant to speak up before. Each story added another piece to a picture of systematic emotional neglect. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from Sarah with a simple question. "Is everything okay? You haven't responded." I looked over at Emma, who had returned from the kitchen and was sitting alone on the couch, holding her juice with both hands, watching Tyler continue to play with her opened presents. She looked so small, so defeated. I stood up and walked over to her. "Hey, sweetheart, how about we head home? We can have our own Christmas celebration, just the 3 of us when Mommy gets home from work." Her face lit up slightly, the first genuine expression of hope I'd seen from her all day. "Really? We can go home?" But before I could answer, my mother appeared, her voice sharp and commanding. "Absolutely not. You are not leaving in the middle of Christmas dinner. You're being overdramatic, and you're teaching Emma to run away from family situations instead of dealing with them like adults." I stood up, lifting Emma into my arms. "We're leaving, Mom. This isn't healthy for Emma." Patricia's face turned an alarming shade of red. "You're ruining Christmas. You're destroying this family with your selfishness. All because you can't stand to see another child be happy." The entire family was watching now. Tyler, sensing the drama, ran over to where we were standing. He was holding something, and when I looked closer, I realized with horror what it was. Emma's special comfort toy. A small stuffed rabbit that had belonged to Sarah's mother before she passed away from cancer 2 years ago. It was irreplaceable, the last gift from her grandmother, and Emma slept with it every single night. "This is mine now," Tyler announced loudly. "I like it, so it's mine." Emma immediately reached for it. "No, Tyler, please. That's my special bunny. Grandma Ellen gave it to me. Please give it back." Tyler held it high above his head, taunting her. "No, it's mine. Finders keepers." Emma struggled to get down from my arms, trying to reach her beloved rabbit. Tyler, seeing her coming, did something that shocked even me in my already stunned state. He pushed her, hard, with both hands. Emma, caught off balance, fell backward, her head hitting the corner of the coffee table with a sickening crack. For a moment, the room was silent. Then, Emma's scream pierced the air, and I saw blood. Blood on the coffee table, blood in Emma's hair, blood on the carpet. I dropped to my knees beside her, my first aid training kicking in as I applied pressure to the wound with tissues someone handed me. And in that moment of crisis, what did my family do? Lauren rushed to Tyler, pulling him into her arms because Emma's crying was scaring him. My mother went to Tyler too, telling him it wasn't his fault, that Emma shouldn't have tried to grab things. My father stood there saying Emma needed to be more careful, that children got hurt when they weren't watching where they were going. Not one of them came to help Emma. Not one of them showed concern for the bleeding 7-year-old. They were all focused on making sure Tyler didn't feel bad about what he'd done. I scooped Emma up in my arms, her blood already soaking through my shirt, and headed for the door. My mother tried to block my path, insisting Emma was fine and I was overreacting, but I pushed past her. Nothing mattered now, except getting my daughter medical attention. The drive to the emergency room was the longest 15 minutes of my life. Emma was conscious, but crying, holding a towel to her head that was rapidly turning red. I called Sarah from the car, putting her on speaker so she could talk to Emma while I drove. "Daddy's taking you to the hospital, sweetheart." Sarah's voice was calm despite what I knew must be her internal panic. "I'm leaving work right now. I'll be there soon." "You're being so brave." At the ER, they took us back quickly when they saw the head wound. The triage nurse asked what happened, and I told her the truth. Emma was pushed by another child and hit her head on a coffee table. She made notes, her expression growing more serious when I mentioned it was intentional, pushing, not accidental rough play. The doctor who examined Emma was thorough and kind. Emma needed 4 stitches and showed signs of a mild concussion. As she worked, she asked Emma questions about what happened. Emma, in her innocent honesty, told the whole story about Tyler taking her presents and her special bunny and pushing her when she tried to get it back. The doctor looked at me over Emma's head, her expression carefully neutral. "Mr. Thompson, these kinds of injuries from family dynamics are more common than you'd think. Has this kind of thing happened before?" I found myself telling her everything. The pattern of favoritism, the previous incidents, the emotional neglect. It all came pouring out while the doctor cleaned and stitched Emma's wound. She listened without judgment, occasionally making notes. Sarah arrived as they were finishing the stitches, still in her scrubs from the hospital where she worked. She took one look at Emma and her professional composure cracked. She pulled our daughter into her arms, so gently, examining the wound with practiced eyes even as tears rolled down her cheeks. After Emma was treated and resting on the hospital bed with a juice box and crackers, Sarah pulled me into the hallway. Her expression was unlike anything I'd seen in our 9 years of marriage. It was rage, pure and controlled. "Enough," she said, her voice low and fierce. "This ends today, Stuart. I've been documenting everything for 2 years. 2 years of watching your family emotionally abuse our daughter while you kept hoping they'd change. No more." She pulled out her phone and showed me a folder labeled Emma Evidence. Inside were screenshots, photos, videos, and detailed notes. Dates, times, incidents, witnesses. She'd been building a case I didn't even know existed. "Look at this," she said, showing me text messages from my mother that I'd never seen. Messages where Patricia explicitly stated that Tyler was her favorite grandchild. Messages where she called Emma difficult and said she wasn't as special as Tyler. Messages where she criticized our parenting and suggested Emma's sensitivity was our fault. "Why didn't you show me these before?" I asked, feeling sick. "Because you weren't ready to see it. You kept making excuses, kept hoping they'd change. But Stuart, they're not going to change. They're getting worse. And now Emma has a concussion and stitches because we didn't protect her." The weight of my failure as a father hit me like a physical blow. Sarah was right. I'd been so desperate to maintain family harmony, so hopeful that my parents would eventually see Emma's worth, that I'd allowed this to continue far too long. Sarah wasn't done. She pulled up another folder, this one labeled Future. Inside was a job offer letter. The position she'd been offered was in Denver, Colorado. Lead nursing supervisor at a major hospital. $20,000 more per year. Better benefits, regular hours that would let her be home for dinner most nights. "I've been sitting on this for 3 weeks," she said. I didn't know how to bring it up. But Stuart, this is our chance. We can start fresh. Emma can grow up away from this toxicity. I stared at the offer letter. Denver, 2,000 miles from my family. It felt like both a lifeline and a death sentence for the relationship with my parents. My phone started buzzing with messages from my family. I reluctantly looked at them, each one worse than the last. Patricia claimed Emma was faking for attention, that the injury wasn't serious, that we were being dramatic. Lauren threatened legal action for defamation if we told anyone Tyler pushed Emma on purpose. Bob sent a long message about how I was breaking my mother's heart and needed to man up and stop being so sensitive. Then came the group family text that made my decision for me. Lauren had shared a photo of Tyler playing happily with all of Emma's opened Christmas presents. The caption read, "Thanks Uncle Stuart for the great gifts. Tyler loves them. Best Christmas ever." The callousness of it, posting that while Emma was in the emergency room, broke something in me. I showed Sarah the message, and she actually laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "They're actually taunting us," she said. "They hurt our child, and they're taunting us about it." I sat down in a waiting room chair, feeling the weight of everything crash down on me. Sarah sat beside me, taking my hand. "There's something else," she said quietly. "Something I haven't told you yet. I'm pregnant. 8 weeks. I found out last week, and I was waiting for Christmas to surprise you, but now, my heart stopped. Pregnant. We'd been trying for over a year, had started to think it might not happen. And now, in the middle of this nightmare, here was a miracle. I can't raise another child around them, Stuart," Sarah continued. "I won't watch them do to our new baby what they've done to Emma. Either they choose Tyler and destroy both our children's self-worth, or they pick the new baby as the golden child and make Emma feel even more rejected. There's no winning here." She was right. God help me, she was right. I thought about Emma's defeated expression, the way she'd learned to make herself small, the way she'd given up expecting fairness. I thought about bringing a new baby into this dynamic, watching the favoritism play out all over again. Dr. Martinez came back to check on Emma, giving us discharge instructions. She also handed me a card for a child psychologist who specialized in family trauma. "Your daughter is showing signs of emotional distress beyond today's incident," she said gently. "This might be helpful. And Mr. Thompson? Sometimes the bravest thing a parent can do is protect their child from toxic family members, even when those family members are grandparents." As we prepared to leave, Emma in my arms with her head bandaged, Sarah walking beside us, my phone rang. It was my mother. Against my better judgment, I answered. Her first words weren't asking about Emma's condition. Instead, she launched into a tirade about how we'd embarrassed her by leaving, how the family was talking about our overreaction, how we'd ruined Christmas for everyone, especially poor Tyler who felt so guilty, even though it wasn't his fault. I hung up on her. For the first time in my 35 years, I hung up on my mother mid-sentence. Sarah squeezed my shoulder in support. We drove home in silence, Emma dozing in the back seat, despite the mild concussion the doctor said to monitor. Sarah held my hand across the center console. When we got home, I sent a single text to my family group chat. "Emma has a concussion and 4 stitches. We will be taking time to focus on her recovery and our family. Please do not contact us until we reach out to you." Then I turned off my phone. Sarah did the same. For the first time in years, we were unreachable to my family. It felt terrifying and liberating at the same time. That night, after Emma was safely asleep in our bed where we could monitor her, Sarah and I stayed up talking. We made lists, ran numbers, researched Denver schools. We looked at houses online, checked out neighborhoods, read about the children's hospital where Sarah would work. By morning, we'd made our decision. We were taking the job. We were moving to Denver. We were choosing Emma and our unborn child over my toxic birth family. The cost was high, but the price of staying was higher. Emma deserved better. Our new baby deserved better. We deserved better. The next few weeks revealed truths that shattered any remaining illusions I had about my family. What started as protecting Emma became an investigation into years of systematic favoritism and emotional neglect that ran deeper than I'd ever imagined. It began when I called Emma's teacher, Mrs. Anderson, to explain that Emma would miss a few days of school due to her injury. Mrs. Anderson's response stopped me cold. "Oh, thank God you called, Mr. Thompson. I've been wanting to discuss Emma's emotional well-being with you. She's been having anxiety attacks at school, particularly on Mondays after weekend family visits. She's asked me several times if it's her fault that her grandparents don't love her as much as her cousin." My heart shattered. Emma had been suffering at school, carrying this burden alone, and I hadn't known. Mrs. Anderson continued, telling me about drawings Emma had made during free time. Pictures of family gatherings, where she drew herself tiny in the corner, while Tyler dominated the center. Stories she'd written about a little girl whose cousin was a prince while she was invisible. "I've documented everything," Mrs. Anderson said. "The school counselor, Miss Rodriguez, has been seeing Emma during lunch periods. She didn't want to worry you, so she asked us not to tell you. But given what's happened, you need to know." My next call was to Miss Rodriguez. She was careful with her words, bound by confidentiality, but what she could share was devastating. Emma exhibited classic signs of being the scapegoat in a golden child dynamic. She'd internalized the message that she was less valuable, less worthy of love. She'd started believing that if she could just be better, quieter, smaller, maybe she'd earn equal treatment. In one session, Miss Rodriguez shared, "With your permission, Emma told me she practices being invisible. She said, if she's invisible enough, nobody gets mad, and Tyler gets all the attention he needs." A 7-year-old shouldn't even know how to articulate that kind of emotional survival strategy. I started reaching out to family members individually, the ones who'd seemed sympathetic at Christmas. The stories poured out like water through a broken dam. My cousin Rachel called me back first. "Stuart, I've watched this for years. Last Thanksgiving when you couldn't make it, Patricia literally took a gift Emma had brought for her and re-gifted it to Tyler in front of everyone. She said Tyler would appreciate it more." Emma cried, and Patricia told her she was being a baby. Uncle Martin, my father's older brother, was even more direct. "Your parents changed their will recently, Stuart," Bob told me at golf. "Tyler's getting a significantly larger inheritance because," and I quote, "boys need more financial support to establish themselves in the world. Emma's portion is less than half of Tyler's." The evidence kept mounting. My cousin Jennifer revealed that my parents had a college fund for Tyler with over $15,000 already saved. When she'd asked about Emma's fund, Patricia had said they assumed we'd handle Emma's education since we both worked. Sarah's investigation was even more thorough. She'd reached out to Tyler's school through a friend who worked there. Tyler had been suspended 3 times for bullying younger children. He'd been in mandatory counseling for aggressive behavior. Lauren had hidden all of this from the family, presenting Tyler as a victim rather than addressing his issues. Tyler's father, Brandon, who Lauren painted as an absent deadbeat, actually had joint custody and had been documenting concerns about Tyler's behavior. Sarah managed to speak with him, and he revealed that he'd been trying to get Tyler into therapy, but Lauren refused, saying there was nothing wrong with her son. He'd even offered to pay for it entirely, but Lauren threatened to take him back to court if he suggested again that Tyler needed help. The most shocking revelation came from an unexpected source. Margaret's daughter Jennifer worked at the same pediatric practice where Tyler was a patient. While she couldn't violate HIPAA, she could tell us that several nurses had noticed concerning patterns in how Lauren and my parents handled Tyler's behavioral issues, always blaming others, never accepting responsibility. I compiled everything into a comprehensive document. Sarah organized it chronologically, showing the escalation over time. We had videos, testimonies, school records, medical documentation. It painted a picture of systematic favoritism that bordered on emotional abuse. Armed with this information, I made one last attempt at reconciliation. I sent my parents a detailed email outlining everything we'd discovered, the harm it was causing Emma, and a request for family therapy. I offered to pay for it entirely. I suggested multiple therapists, various time slots, even online sessions if in person was too difficult. My mother's response came within an hour. It was so cruel that Sarah actually gasped when she read it. "Stuart, I'm deeply concerned about your mental stability. You've clearly been influenced by Sarah's jealousy and paranoia. The fact that you would compile such a twisted version of events shows how delusional you've become. Emma is a troubled child, and instead of addressing her issues, you're blaming everyone else. Perhaps if you and Sarah were better parents, Emma wouldn't be so difficult. Tyler is thriving because Lauren knows how to raise a confident child. I've consulted with my attorney about grandparents' rights. It's clear Emma needs stable influences in her life, and if you continue this path of alienation, we'll have no choice but to pursue legal action. You're sick, Stuart, and you're making Emma sick too." She'd CC'd the entire family on the email. The responses were mixed. Some relatives defended her, saying, "I was overreacting." Others stayed silent. But a few, including Martin and Rachel, replied all with their support for us and confirmation of what they'd witnessed. Lauren's response was even worse. She accused us of trying to destroy Tyler's self-esteem out of jealousy. She claimed Emma had always been manipulative and was now manipulating us into feeling sorry for her. She threatened to sue us for defamation and emotional distress caused to Tyler. But the most telling response came from my father. He didn't defend or deny anything. He simply wrote, "Stuart, sometimes in life, we have to accept that not everyone is destined for greatness. Tyler has potential. Emma is a sweet girl, but she's ordinary. We're investing where it will make a difference. That's not favoritism, it's practicality." There it was in writing. Emma was ordinary, not worth investing in, not destined for anything special. My own father had written off his 7-year-old granddaughter as unworthy of equal treatment. Sarah printed that email and hung it on our refrigerator. "Whenever you start doubting our decision to move," she said, "read this. Remember that they think our brilliant, creative, kind daughter is ordinary and unworthy." The investigation revealed one more crucial detail. My parents had been telling extended family and their church community a completely different story. According to them, Sarah was controlling and keeping me from my family. Emma was troubled and possibly learning disabled. They were the victims, trying desperately to maintain a relationship with their son and granddaughter despite Sarah's interference. They'd been laying groundwork for months, maybe years, to paint us as the problem. If we ever spoke up about the favoritism, they'd already established a narrative that we were unstable, and Sarah was manipulative. Several church members had already reached out to my parents' pastor about their concerns for our family based on my mother's prayer requests about our supposed mental health issues and marital problems. None of which were true, but the damage to our reputation in that community was done. The final piece came from Emma's medical records. The pediatrician had noted several visits for stress-related stomach aches that coincided with family gatherings. The pattern was clear. Emma's physical health was being affected by the emotional trauma of these visits. 3 weeks after Christmas, everything was in motion for our move to Denver. Sarah had accepted the position, we'd found a rental house near excellent schools, and I'd secured a transfer with my company to their Denver office. We told no one in my family, operating in complete secrecy while preparing our exit strategy. But there was one more thing to do. My mother's 65th birthday was approaching, a massive celebration she'd been planning for over a year. She'd rented the church fellowship hall, invited over 200 people, including her entire congregation, work colleagues, extended family from across the country, and various social clubs she belonged to. It was meant to be her crowning social achievement, the party where she'd cement her status as the matriarch of a perfect family. She'd been sending passive-aggressive messages through flying monkeys about how she hoped her only son wouldn't ruin her special day with his dramatics. The extended family was pressuring us to attend and make peace. Even some of Sarah's family thought we should go and be the bigger people. I confirmed we'd attend. I told my mother we'd be there, that we wanted to celebrate her milestone birthday. Her response was smug satisfaction, telling everyone that I'd finally come to my senses and apologized for my behavior at Christmas. But I was preparing something special for her birthday, something she'd never forget. Working with Sarah's brother Michael, who was a lawyer specializing in family law, we prepared several documents, cease and desist letters regarding the threats of grandparents' rights, documentation of defamation, with Lauren's lies, about Emma being troubled, and us being unfit parents. A formal no-contact order that would go into effect after the party. But that wasn't the main surprise. I'd spent 3 weeks creating a professional quality video presentation. It started with beautiful family photos from over the years, the kind of nostalgic montage that would warm hearts. But then it would transition to the truth. I included Daniel's footage of Tyler destroying Emma's dollhouse while my parents encouraged him. The video of Tyler pushing Emma down, with the aftermath showing her blood and their lack of concern. Screenshots of my mother's texts, calling Tyler superior to Emma. The email from my father calling Emma ordinary and not worth investing in. I added testimony videos from family members who'd agreed to speak on camera about what they'd witnessed. Mrs. Anderson and Mrs. Faston. Rodriguez provided written statements about Emma's emotional state and anxiety attacks. The hospital records from Emma's injury were included, along with the doctor's notes about signs of ongoing emotional distress. The centerpiece was a video Emma and I made together. She didn't know what it was for, but I asked her to draw pictures showing how she felt at family gatherings. She drew herself as a tiny figure in the corner, while Tyler was huge in the center. She drew her grandparents with their backs turned to her while facing Tyler. The innocence and pain in those drawings was heartbreaking. I also prepared something positive. Sarah and I created a photo book titled Our Real Family, filled with pictures of Emma with Sarah's parents before they passed, with our chosen family of friends who loved her unconditionally, with her teachers and mentors who saw her worth. Each photo showed Emma genuinely happy, confident, thriving when around people who valued her. We prepared gift bags for every guest at the party. Inside would be a USB drive with the full video, printed copies of key emails and texts, and a letter from me, explaining why we were cutting contact and moving away. We wanted every single person who attended to know the truth. Emma, still recovering from her concussion but doing much better, helped create special art pieces. She didn't know what they were for, but she painted pictures of our new life in Colorado, full of mountains and sunshine and hope. We had them professionally framed. The coup de grace was something Sarah discovered. Patricia had been telling her church friends that we were having marital problems and that I was mentally unstable. She'd requested prayers for our troubled marriage and my mental health issues. Sarah's cousin worked at that church and had recordings of Patricia's prayer requests where she painted us as unfit parents, barely holding on to sanity. We added those recordings to the presentation, showing the lies Patricia had been spreading about us while we'd stayed silent to protect her reputation. 3 days before the party, Lauren called me. Her voice was sweet, too sweet, obviously fake. "Stuart, I'm so glad you're coming to Mom's party. I wanted to call and clear the air. What happened at Christmas was unfortunate, but Tyler feels terrible about Emma getting hurt. He wants to apologize. We all do. Family is family, right?" I recorded the entire call. As she talked, her true nature revealed itself. She admitted that, yes, Tyler gets special treatment, but said that's because he's exceptional and Emma needs to learn that not everyone can be special. She actually said, word for word, that Emma should get used to being second best, because that's what life would be like for her anyway. When I pushed back gently, she got angry and revealed more. She said our mother had already talked to a lawyer about grandparents' rights, and they had a strong case because of my mental instability and Sarah's neglect due to her work schedule. She said if we didn't play nice at the party, they'd file for partial custody of Emma. I kept recording as she dug herself deeper, admitting that Tyler had behavioral problems, but that's just because he's so intelligent and gets bored easily. She admitted to hiding his school suspensions from the family. She admitted that his father wanted him in therapy, but she refused because there was nothing wrong with her perfect son. The recording was gold, pure gold. It would be the final nail in the coffin of any relationship with my birth family. We prepared one more thing. I reached out to every family member who'd been supportive, letting them know that something significant would happen at the party, and they might want to distance themselves from Patricia and Lauren before it happened. Most appreciated the warning. Some chose to skip the party entirely. Others promised to be there to support us. The night before the party, Sarah and I sat with Emma and explained in age-appropriate terms that we wouldn't be seeing Grandma and Grandpa anymore after tomorrow. She looked relieved, actually relieved, and asked if that meant Tyler wouldn't be able to take her things anymore. When we said yes, she smiled for the first time since Christmas. We also told her about the new baby. Her excitement was pure and beautiful. She immediately started planning all the things she'd teach her little sibling, all the ways she'd be the best big sister. The joy in her face reminded us why we were doing this. Our children deserved better than what my family offered. The morning of my mother's 65th birthday party, I woke up with absolute clarity about what I was about to do. Sarah and I dressed Emma in her favorite purple dress, the one that made her feel confident. We packed the carefully prepared gift bags, the USB drives, the framed artwork, and the video presentation on multiple backup devices. The church fellowship hall was decorated lavishly when we arrived. Patricia had spared no expense: professional catering, elaborate floral arrangements, a DJ, even a photographer to capture her special day. The room was already filling with guests, over 100 people, with more arriving every minute. My mother swept toward us in her new dress, a satisfied smile on her face. She air-kissed my cheek, barely acknowledged Sarah, and completely ignored Emma, turning instead to greet more important guests behind us. The slight was so obvious that several people noticed, exchanging uncomfortable glances. Lauren and Tyler were already there, Tyler running wild through the hall, knocking into elderly guests, grabbing food from the buffet with his hands. Lauren watched with an indulgent smile, calling him spirited when anyone looked disapproving. When Tyler saw Emma, he immediately ran over and tried to grab the small purse she was carrying. I stepped between them, my presence enough to make him back off with a sullen glare. The party progressed with speeches about what a wonderful mother, grandmother, and Christian woman Patricia was. Church members praised her dedication. Co-workers lauded her professionalism. Each speech felt like another layer of hypocrisy, given what I knew about her true nature. Finally, it came time for family members to present gifts. Lauren went first, giving an emotional speech about the world's best mother and grandmother, how Patricia had shown such grace dealing with difficult family members, looking directly at me, and how Tyler was blessed to have such an amazing role model. Tyler presented a handmade card that Patricia gushed over, showing it to everyone nearby, proclaiming it would go in her special memory box. Then, it was my turn. I stood up, Emma's hand in mine, Sarah beside us. The room quieted, everyone aware of the tension after Christmas. "Mom," I began, my voice steady and clear. "For your 65th birthday, I wanted to give you something truly memorable, something that reflects the reality of who you are and the family you've built. I've prepared a tribute video that I think everyone here should see." Patricia's face lit up, assuming I'd created some flattering montage. She actually called out to the crowd, telling them to pay attention to her son's special gift. The lights dimmed, and the video began playing on the large screen the church had set up. The first minute was exactly what she expected: beautiful family photos set to music, pictures of her through the years. The guests smiled and made appreciative sounds. Patricia preened with satisfaction. Then, the transition happened. The music stopped. The first clip played. Tyler destroying Emma's dollhouse while Patricia laughed and called him clever. The room went silent. The next clip, Tyler pushing Emma, the crack of her head hitting the table, the blood, and then Patricia comforting Tyler while Emma cried. Gasps rippled through the audience. Someone tried to turn it off, but I had the only remote. The video continued. Screenshot after screenshot of Patricia's messages calling Tyler superior to Emma. The email from Bob calling Emma ordinary and unworthy of investment. The recorded phone call where Lauren admitted Emma should get used to being second best. The testimonies played next. Teacher after teacher, family member after family member, describing what they'd witnessed. The school counselor's report about Emma's anxiety attacks. The pediatrician's notes about stress-related illness. Patricia stood up, screaming at me to turn it off, but I held the remote high. The church members who'd been told we were mentally unstable were seeing the truth. Her co-workers who'd heard about her perfect family were seeing the reality. The video reached Emma's segment. Her small voice narrated her drawings, explaining how she felt invisible at family gatherings, how she tried to be smaller so Tyler could have more room, how she wondered what she'd done wrong to make her grandparents love her less. Women in the audience were crying. Men were shaking their heads in disgust. Patricia's carefully constructed image was crumbling in real time. The final segment was the recording of Patricia's prayer requests at church, where she'd lied about our marriage, my mental health, and Emma's supposed problems. Her own voice, in her own church, telling lies about her son and granddaughter to gain sympathy and attention. When the video ended, the room was tomb silent. Patricia stood frozen, her face white, then red, then purple with rage. Lauren was screaming that we'd edited everything, that it was lies, but people had seen Tyler's behavior at the party. They'd witnessed the favoritism themselves. I spoke into the silence. For years, you've emotionally abused my daughter while favoring Tyler. You've made Emma feel worthless while teaching Tyler he can do no wrong. Today, that ends. I pulled out the legal documents, serving them publicly. These are cease and desist orders. Any attempt to contact us, to pursue grandparents' rights, or to continue spreading lies about us, will result in legal action. We have documented everything. Bob finally found his voice, shouting about disrespect and family loyalty. Several of his golf buddies turned their backs on him. His brother Martin stood up and loudly declared his support for us, saying he'd witnessed the favoritism for years. Tyler, sensing the attention wasn't on him, began one of his legendary tantrums. He started throwing things, screaming, kicking chairs. Lauren tried to calm him, but he pushed her away, yelling that he wanted Emma's presence, that everything should be his. The entire room watched a 10-year-old boy prove everything in the video true through his own behavior. I turned to address the room one final time. We're moving to Colorado. Our daughter deserves to grow up free from this toxicity. She deserves to know she's valued, loved, and special. She deserves grandparents who see her worth, not people who call her ordinary. Sarah stepped forward, her hand on her still flat stomach. And our new baby deserves to never know this kind of conditional, cruel love. We choose our children over toxic family. We choose health over dysfunction. Patricia lunged toward us, but several church members actually stepped in to stop her. Mrs. Thompson, who'd taught Patricia's Sunday school class, looked at her with such disappointment. Patricia, how could you? That sweet little girl, how could you? We walked toward the exit, but not before I'd handed out the gift bags to key people, ensuring the truth would spread. Emma walked between us, her head held high for the first time at a family gathering. At the door, Emma turned back and said in her clear, sweet voice, loud enough for everyone to hear, "I forgive you, Grandma, but I don't want to see you anymore. I hope Tyler gets help for his problems. And I hope someday you understand that all grandchildren deserve love." The room erupted as we left. We could hear the shouting, the accusations, Patricia's hysteria, Tyler's tantrum, reaching epic proportions. But we didn't look back. 6 months later, our life in Colorado was everything we'd hoped. Emma had bloomed like a flower in sunshine. Her anxiety was gone, replaced by confidence and joy. She'd made friends easily, excelled in school, and started dance classes where she shone. Her teacher called her a natural leader, creative and kind. Sarah's pregnancy progressed beautifully. We found out we were having a boy, and Emma was over the moon about being a big sister. She spent hours planning how she'd teach him to be kind, to share, to treat everyone with respect. My new office welcomed me warmly, and I'd found my groove quickly. Sarah's position was even better than expected, with colleagues who became friends and a schedule that let her be home for dinner most nights. We received letters from my parents through their lawyer, attempts to reconcile disguised as legal threats. We returned them unopened. Lauren tried to contact us through social media, with pictures of Tyler looking sad, claiming he missed his cousin. We blocked her on everything. But we also received other messages. Cousins reached out to maintain relationships. Uncle Martin visited us in Colorado, bringing his grandchildren to play with Emma. Mrs. Anderson, Emma's former teacher, sent updates about how she'd used our story in professional development training about recognizing family dysfunction affecting students. Several people from Patricia's church contacted us with apologies for not seeing the truth sooner. Some shared their own stories of noticing Patricia's favoritism, but feeling unable to speak up. The church ultimately asked Patricia to step down from her leadership positions, citing conduct unbecoming of a Christian leader. Brandon, Tyler's father, successfully used the party video in court to gain primary custody and get Tyler into mandatory therapy. He sent us a single message thanking us for exposing what Lauren had hidden, saying Tyler finally had a chance at learning accountability. Our son was born on a beautiful September day, with Emma holding Sarah's hand during delivery, whispering encouragement to her mom. We named him James, after Sarah's father. Emma was the first to hold him after us, her face glowing with pride and love. Our chosen family surrounded us. Sarah's siblings, our Denver friends, colleagues, who'd become like family. The hospital room filled with people who loved our children unconditionally, who celebrated both of them equally, who saw their unique worth. A year after the party, I received a final communication through Uncle Martin. Patricia had written a letter taking no responsibility, but wanting to meet her grandson. Bob had apparently had a mild heart attack and wanted to reconcile before it was too late. Lauren was dealing with Tyler's escalating behavioral problems alone, begging for family support. I felt no satisfaction in their struggles, but also no obligation to sacrifice my children's well-being for people who'd shown such cruelty. I sent back a simple response through Martin. We wish you peace and healing, but our decision is final. Our children will never know the pain of being deemed ordinary or less than. They will only know unconditional love. Emma, now thriving in 3rd grade, recently had to create a family tree project. She included Sarah's parents with halos, indicating they were in heaven. She included my Uncle Martin and cousins who'd stood by us. She included our Denver chosen family. But Patricia, Bob, Lauren, and Tyler were nowhere on her tree. When her teacher asked about grandparents, Emma said simply, "I have the family who chooses to love me. That's all I need." The project hangs on our refrigerator now, a testament to the truth that family isn't about blood. It's about love, respect, and choosing each other every single day. Emma learned this lesson early, and while the teaching was painful, the result is a child who knows her worth and will never settle for less than complete acceptance. Our story isn't unique. Thousands of families deal with golden child dynamics, favoritism, and emotional abuse disguised as family loyalty. But what is unique is the decision to fight back, to expose the truth, and to choose our children over toxic relationships. That birthday party video still circulates in our old community, a cautionary tale about the dangers of favoritism and the power of truth. Patricia's reputation never recovered, but more importantly, Emma recovered fully, growing into a confident, compassionate child who knows she deserves love simply for being herself. The surprise we gave them wasn't just exposure of their cruelty. It was the surprise of consequences, something Tyler and my parents had never faced. It was the surprise that we valued our daughter more than their approval. It was the surprise that sometimes the scapegoat escapes, thrives, and never looks back. Recently, Emma asked me if I missed my parents. I told her the truth. I miss the parents I wish they were, but not the parents they actually were. She nodded with wisdom beyond her years and said, "That makes sense, Daddy. You chose love over blood. That's what real fathers do. And that's the greatest gift from this entire painful journey. My daughter knows she's chosen, valued, and worth fighting for. She'll never question her worth because others assign it conditionally. She knows love should never come with a price tag or comparison. She knows she's extraordinary simply by being Emma." So to everyone listening who's dealing with family favoritism, know this: you don't have to accept it. You don't have to expose your children to it. You don't have to maintain relationships that damage your child's sense of self-worth. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away, build something new, and show your children what real love looks like. Blood makes you related, but loyalty, respect, and unconditional love make you family. Choose wisely, choose your children, choose peace. The price of maintaining toxic relationships is always higher than the cost of walking away. How many of you have witnessed favoritism in families, and do you think cutting contact is sometimes the only solution? Have you ever had to choose between toxic family members and your children's well-being? Share your stories in the comments below, and let's support each other in breaking these cycles. If this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming family dysfunction and choosing healthy love. Share this with someone who needs to hear that they're not alone, and that choosing their children over toxic family is not just okay, it's necessary. Thank you for listening, and remember, you deserve a family who sees your worth, celebrates your existence, and loves you without conditions. Never settle for less.